Whenever
All
you're ready.
right, let's call the meeting to order. And I guess we should do a roll call, simple roll call is. Well, I'll start. Katie's here. Katie Miller is here.
Sloan Carfield is here.
Lexi O'Brien here.
Scott Gresh, present.
Emerson Smith present.
Paul Dietrich here.
Sunshine Valder present.
Kevin Sombart, present.
All right, well, let's look at, if anybody's had a chance to look at the minutes from our October meeting. And do we have any changes to those?
Yes.
Kevin's smiling.
What did we misspell?
Well, yeah, number one, I was not present.
Yeah.
Okay. And Centron is FELDER, not Fielder.
Was that? You illegally changed your name, Citron. That's right. I can work with that.
The rest of it I can't speak to because I wasn't here. so.
Right. Did anybody?
Thought it was very thorough.
Yeah,
I really appreciated
Yeah.
all the detail that was in it. This,
All right, so do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
Okay, and do I have a second? Okay, Scott, okay, thank you all. The first thing on our agenda then is an update from the police department and Chief Curtis.
I really don't have any update unless there's something that you all wanted me to address.
I do have a question,
Okay.
and I don't know what we can do about it or what anyone can do about it, but every time I get the e-sends, it seems like, I mean, the car thefts in the Webster Groves area and all over the country, quite honestly, is just increased dramatically,
That's correct.
and the car break-ins.
That's correct.
And is there something we can do to help you get the word out, to take your flippin' fob out of the car and lock the car, even if you go in the house for 5 minutes?
I'm not sure that there is. We have done everything we can to advertise it, including the Webster Kirkwood Times and then in the city chat we had a couple weeks ago. And periodically on the e-sense, we put in there, please lock your cars, get keys with you, lock your houses, and did some other things that 5-year thing. So I don't think, unless you can think of something that I can't. I'm not sure what
Is there
else you can
something that we can, that you could provide us, that we could post on our new website, which is really beautiful? Thank you very much.
Oh,
I mean, it's so much better.
That-
than
it's
it's already.
Sharky did that work.
So, but is there something that we can, I mean, just something that we can post to
You
say,
can add, we have with the 9 o'clock routine, which we put on our Facebook page. You can certainly add that to your
Yeah.
PCED webpage.
What if we did some kind of infographic that could be in social media? That maybe not everyone is reading long form kinds of things, or the Webster Kirkwood Times. Maybe those people are getting the message and they're locking up. And it's the people that maybe are more likely to scroll Instagram.
no, it's a middle-aged women with kids that are.
Well, I guess I
are
saw
taking
that
their-
one.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, come on, folks.
I don't know. I think it could.
And it's
be a-
happening everywhere. I mean, it's on Swan, it's on Lockwood, it's on Elm. I mean,
Well, it's not just, it doesn't help the people who've been victim of it, but it's not what just Webster goes. If you look
No.
at any entering community, especially in the suburbs, it's increased dramatically. It's a huge problem. There are a number of factors, most of which we can't really control. Even the outer ring suburbs are starting to get into there. There are some things that we are trying to do. The mayors have talked about supporting the munis in St. Louis County and forming and possibly forming a task force. Talked to Senator Carson, the Department of Public Safety, to see there might be some funds from the state that we can get to help with the task force. We are looking at, and probably wasn't quite ready to bring it up, so probably another 4 to 6 weeks, but we are looking at doing a power shift to add 5 or 6 officers during the times when it's most prevalent, which is from like 6 p.m. until 6 a.m. That's probably going to happen. We wanted to do it before, but we really couldn't because we've between resignations and retirements, we've been very short. Believe it or not, we hired 7 people in the last 6 months.
Mhm.
7 people. I said we are now fully staffed. But even with that, and during the summer months, it's hard. You can't really pinpoint it because like they'll hit Webster Girls one night, they'll hit Kirkwood one night, then they'll go to Glendale. And it's not just one group, there's several, but we have pulled detectives and traffic, put everybody on a night watch, and we divide the city into 8 sectors where a person is doing one small sector of the city. We've had as many as 12 officers on the street during those times for like 2 or 3 weeks. Unfortunately, we can't do that permanently, but when we do it, it definitely helps. But like I said, we can't do it permanently. Done that a couple times during the early and late summer months. But again, I'm hopeful that adding a power shift during this time will help somewhat. But the other problem is we will probably would help change our pursuit policy. It's just another thing we're looking at, but it's something I'm not sure we want to do. But the officers have interrupted some car thefts and some stealing from the autos. But what happens is they're out on foot. They have a car that drops them off. If they can make it to the car and take off, our pursuit policy says you're not going to pursue for property crime. That it's more of a risk to the public safety by doing that. So it's problematic. The officers don't like it, but that's one of the things that we might take a look at, loosening that a little bit between midnight and 6. But it's a discussion we have. We're a long way from making it happen. The other thing that we're looking at is, and again, this is just in the discussion stage, and something I would actually bring up here to talk about before we do implement it. We're looking at the spikes, possibly spiking cars, but to do that, we have to have some people trained with it. There's a lot of liability that's associated with it, but there's a lot of departments that are used it and trained on it. So that's another thing that we're thinking about doing. We're trying to think of things that we can do to help mitigate some of the thefts. But the bottom line is people need to lock the cars, take the keys with them, because we're just not going to be able to stop it all. It's just too easy for a group of people to come in, 3 or 4 of them, get out of the car while the other person's driving. It takes them about 1 minute to go up and down the street, find a car that's open, and they're gone.
Our next door neighbor had their car stolen. And we saw them on our doorbell camera,
Mhm.
and it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. And we had 2 kids. And they stopped in front of our house and sat out there for a minute or so. There were 3 guys. I guess they were checking I don't know, if they were clicking to see if they would open our Kia doors. And then they drove off. I was surprised at how to me, they sat there for a minute or so and they just stole
So it's
a
pretty
car
blatant.
and they're taking off with it.
No, they're very
Took it
blatant.
down the city and jumped it. But we bought a club for all of our cars.
It's a very difficult issue. We're trying to look at some different alternatives to help it, but it's not. Unless it's some things you can do, I think maybe we talked about this before, but the predominant people that are actually getting out and doing the thefts are juveniles.
Yeah.
So if when they're caught, and we've caught a couple, and some other cities I know have caught, it's difficult because the family court system, generally, unless they have some kind of record, they're there for a couple hours to be processed and then they're back out on the street. So it's a difficult issue. It's a social issue. There's a lot of things involved there, but we're trying to address it as best we can without exposing the city to liability or causing more harm than good that we did.
For those clubs, I was surprised. They only cost $20. So it's not that.
Well,
Yeah, with the Hyundai and the Kia dealer also, they have a fix now
Yeah.
that it's an electronic fix where it disables it if it's broken into. So
Well, predominantly, so I think we've had some keys on Hyundai's taken, but it's cars that are unlocked.
Yeah.
And cars with the key or key fob inside, or the key fob's in another car in the garage. It's just, we're trying to educate people to help us help them. But it's difficult. I really don't understand why somebody is doing it at this point, because it's so prevalent, not the news so much, you'd think that most people would be aware
Well,
of it.
people
That's the
can
problem.
start their cars from their house too. And then I'm sure as it gets colder, they let them sit out there and warm up. I guess you could.
I'm sure there's a lot of that probably going on, and nothing happens, but the problem is, it
Yeah.
only takes one time for somebody to look at their
Well, if
car.
you've got the fob though, and you start your car remotely, and they break into it and try to steal it, it stops. Yeah. So,
So anyway, I can give you the information we have on our Facebook that you can put on your
Yeah.
page if that you think that will help.
Hey, Chief. I was
Yes.
curious, do you know what percentage of car thefts in Webster Groves would be preventable if people just had their key fobs inside?
Unfortunately, we don't keep hard data on that, but I can tell you just from, I go over all the activity sheets and all the e-cent reports. A good and educated guess is more than 80% of the cars
Yeah.
taken either are unlocked or with the keys or have a key in another car or another place where it can be accessed.
yeah.
think
that- I
another
would say
com-
70 to 90.
Another
right.
compelling point about that is that it like, because it's preventable, it takes manpower away from other needs that the community might have.
Right, well, again, we are more than likely gonna go to a power shift thing, and it's difficult to do, because what it does is most of the officers are gonna be on it, assigned to it, probably aren't gonna wanna work the straight night shift is what it is, basically.
Right,
So it's unfortunate, but we have to do what we can do to help with public safety and help prevent this. So yes, those are resources that normally could be used and spread out doing other things, but we're gonna focus and target on trying to prevent the car thefts and thus from the cars.
Are any of the host vehicles potentially in the LPR license plate reader system?
Well, that's another thing that we are probably going to do. I've talked to Dr. Peoples. There is a state grant available. So we are likely going to purchase 6 cameras that have LPRs. They're not, there's always a concern from the public about, the privacy, and I understand that, but they're going to be set up in such a way that they're not going to do face recognition, or faces aren't going to be the cameras. They're strictly going to be where a rear view where you can see them coming to the city. And then there's a bunch of cities that have them. Will be hooked onto the network. So if a car is stolen, that's the other catch to it though. The car is stolen, say in St. Louis City, they come into Webster Groves and it goes through one of those cameras. It'll be in the NDTs, it'll be alerted, hey, this car is in town. So, you can look, this is where it went through and you can look for it. So that's probably something that will happen for the next 3 or 4 months.
It really does seem like a communications issue, though. That the public, that not enough people are getting the message that they're at risk.
Yeah, I mean,
Their behavior could.
I mean, there are more of them that are breaking windshields now and trying to get them into that way too. I mean, I've noticed on eSense, there's more where they're breaking, but I think they're looking for weapons when they're doing that.
It's only when they break,
So-
it's not hard and fast, but it's only when they're breaking into the car, it's because they see something in there, they think there's something in there that they want.
Yeah.
So if the car is locked, there's no key inside and there's no valuables inside, 90% of the time,
Mhm.
there's not gonna be an issue with it. And it used to be, I mean, it's unfortunate, 10 years ago.
Do you have some thoughts here over there?
I did have thoughts, but I also at this point felt like we've exhausted
Yeah,
maybe this conversation.
perhaps.
My only comment was regarding the legislation, if we could do something and get behind a candidate in the future that, wants to make change in that way. But then you have to take the good with the bad of particular candidates who would probably want to push that as a narrative. But that's it. So that's all.
interesting. All right,
You're muted.
You muted yourself, Katie.
Thank you.
That's probably better. Anyway, thank you, Chief, and thank you, Kevin, for bringing that up. And thank you, Centron, for moving it along too. So now I think we're gonna have a pretty quick meeting tonight because John Buck also had emailed me to say that the Webster University presenters were not available tonight. And so we will move that into 2023. So now we are on to updates from board members and subcommittees. And we have some thrilling moment for all of us, maybe especially me, which is we have a nominee for our 2023 PCEB board chair, who is Lexi O'Brien. Thank you, Lexi. And we also have a nominee for vice chair, which I hadn't gotten full confirmation of that, but it's Centron Felder, not Fielder. And so if, I'm not sure if we need the discussion, Dale, you might, I don't know if we can go straight to a vote if we need any more discussion on that.
It's totally up to the chair, actually, Katie. So if you want to go straight to the vote, you can certainly do that. There's nothing.
Is our board comfortable to go straight to a vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, if you would like to vote for Lexi, do we do it separately, Chief Curtis?
I would say do it by acclamation because I don't, doesn't sound.
Do you have any other candidates or?
We have no other candidates.
I move,
Acclamation.
I move that we vote both in by acclamation.
By acclamation, okay,
Second.
second. So is that it? Do I need a gavel?
You need it all in favor.
All in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Opposed?
okay. Any opposed?
None? No, you're good.
Okay.
All right.
So we can confirm that
Approved.
I don't
Yeah.
know, that you're approved
You should
and
be
that
I was gonna suggest that, so I'm glad.
thank you, Lexi and Centron, for agreeing to serve in this capacity. I mean, I think I appreciate it, obviously, but not to be silly, but it's really a great thing that you guys are taking this on and gonna move us forward.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Katie, I want to say thanks very much. I know you were thrown into this and we're not really, it wasn't something you planned on doing. It was a big drain on your time, but you've done some heavy lifting for the board and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you did
a great
job.
Thanks, Chief, thank you. And now I get to do stuff I like, which is just be a little more behind the scenes, so. Okay, so thank you. That was the nominating subcommittee. So now also the nominating subcommittee for the time being is on hiatus, I guess. So now we have a report, I think, from the communications subcommittee.
We do, and I didn't have a printer. I wonder if anyone, Katie, do you have the email handy that I sent out?
Yeah,
I'll just the
Is it
communications.
that?
I think not only do I have it, I think I
No,
printed
That
it.
is that is the new webpage, but it's actually up and we could show it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, looks good.
So that was the first thing that I wanted to share is that the new webpage is up. And Chief Curtis, Jen mentioned that there were some things that you needed to brief us on regarding shared email and a web form.
Yes, we had a discussion about that and it's still, if you don't want an outside email, you can do that. The problem is going to be, there's going to have to be somebody that's checking it daily, and I volunteered to do that and still would. But it would actually, there's no cost. City can put it on their server. As long, and if you give me, which I have most of the emails already, but if you give me your PCEB email addresses, I can check it daily and anything that's there, I can forward to all of your personal emails. I probably think would be just as efficient and save you money. But again, if you really want to do the outside server, you can do that, but then again, somebody would have to be assigned to check it daily. I don't anticipate there's gonna be a lot of email traffic, unless something, again, usually it's fairly low traffic unless there's some kind of issues in the community. So it's up to you. If you want to, they can do that. I think it will be under the $300 amount, but I'll have to verify that. But it may be better if you just have a generic city email box that they can put on our server. I'll check it daily, or if I'm on vacation or whatever, I probably would still check it, but if not, I can have one of the captains check it. If there's anything there related to the PCB, and even if there's not, if something's coming into that email, I'll make sure that I shoot one to everybody so we can see it.
So the city email, it would only be a city employee that would be able to access it and forward. I know
Yes.
when we were talking in the communications committee with John, We even said, well, we might be willing to sign up for like a rotation, like one person agrees to check it one week and another person the next. So it sounds like that is still feasible. The primary concern from the city is that it be checked.
Right.
Which would also be like, I feel we'd be really remiss to offer something like that and then not be responding. So
Chief,
I'm in agreement.
or city using Outlook,
Yes,
inside of Outlook, you can set up a rule to say, if this email address comes in, forward it to this email address automatically. It'll do that. Even if you have 6 or 7 emails in that room, it'll shoot it out. So you don't have to look at it every day.
Mhm.
Once it comes in, it'll come to us automatically.
Yes.
Yeah.
As long as if that rule is,
I probably would still, again, that's what I get paid for. You are all are making a salary, but that's what I get paid for. So, I mean, I would routinely check it and more than likely daily, just to make sure we're not missing something.
Well, it raises an issue to me, though, that regardless of what we put up there, whether it continues to, we did a city email or another or web form, is that we probably need to identify like, what is our process? Like we set our parameters, we want to respond within, a few business days. And we kind of talked through some language that we might use, but we didn't really say, well, who will look at it? Do we come up with a response and run it by 2 or 3 people? How do we want to manage that?
well, one thing I do recommend that whatever emails come in through, is everybody have an individual email address or just one email address for the PCB?
I was thinking it was going to be one email address and that as a
So
group.
one thing I would recommend, if it's one email address comes to PCB, that you keep a log
Mhm.
on those emails.
Absolutely.
That's,
And if it's coming to the city, that's done automatically. Those are our city emails
Archive, yeah.
are archived and our IT people can.
Oh, so if it were the city one, it could have a forwarding rule. It automatically keeps a log.
And it logs them and archives them.
with the, somebody requests copies of them, you know who sent what in.
What's the rationale for not using the city server?
I don't know.
It's a preference. I mean, I think I would be comfortable with using the city's server, but if for some reason you don't want to do that, and they can't, like I said, they can't set it up. It's a little more autonomous that way toward the board being in control of it. But I would hope that it's not just me, but it's the city who trust that it's, we forwarded. If you weren't given it all of a sudden, you can say, hey, what's happening here? So my recommendation would be to let the city do it on the Outlook, forward it to everybody. I'll check it daily. If there's something there that looks, that's where it needs a response, I'll make sure that you're getting it and it will do that. Because like Lexi said, the most important thing is if and when you do get an email, that's that you need to really try and respond within a day.
Mhm.
Well, Lexi, that means that the language on the website, instead of saying contact us via staff liaison, Chief Dale Curtis, it will say contact us at email.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
and then someone would have to be
And we could
responsible.
say, please allow 2 to 3 business days for a response, just because I think if it is us as a group, unless I wouldn't feel comfortable just responding on behalf of the group. So I think we'd have to have some kind of agreement on
There's
who all see these. And there are some certainly that it would be, need to be reviewed by the city and
there's more than a good possibility, and some of them will actually be require a response to the police department. And if that's the case, I will do that and make sure that you all are copied on it so that you know what came
sounds
in and
good.
how we responded to it.
I mean, I hate to say this, but we could, if something came in, we could do a canned response. And that response would be, it would be on a future board agenda, or it would be directed to the police department for a response to us, and then we would respond accordingly. But I mean, at least they would get a verification or a confirmation
received.
that it was received.
yes.
And that could be
Yes.
automated as well.
And that could be automated as well.
Yeah, when we receive your email, thank you for your response, question or whatever. We'll get back within 3 to 5 business days.
And it will be added to the agenda, we
Mhm.
discussed.
Right, I mean, I think we should, it just should be a standing agenda item that we discuss any incoming emails.
I think that certainly makes sense. It's hard to imagine all the different things that someone might say. But we said, you know, there might be questions that were like, wow, that would be great for a Q&A on our website. Maybe we'd start to get a few of those.
It's okay with you, I will. I should be out of the country starting tomorrow evening. but,
Maybe
I'll
later.
try to do it tomorrow, if not next week when I get back. Draft a canned response. And check with Jenny and Steve to see how we want to set the email up, PCB, whatever.
Okay,
And shoot that to everybody, and if you approve it, we can probably get that within the next week or two.
I think that sounds.
And then if anything's under investigation still, and we're not supposed to disclose certain things, or you'll give us heads up on that.
If there's, like I said, if something that's a police matter, that I actually need to respond to,
You
it, you
should
can't
just
respond to it.
respond.
Well, I'll respond to it, but I also will.
Then forward it to us, and we can still send the can.
So we know your response too, and we have an opportunity to learn about it.
That happened frequently early on,
Mhm.
when this board was established, when I was chairperson. We got bombarded, based on certain circumstances, certain incidents that occurred. And I would communicate with Dale, and then he would send a response out and copy the board members. So that, I mean, it's gonna have its ebbs and flows
Right.
depending on what's going on,
Right.
really.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's something that I would discuss with the board, everything that I can, and at the conclusion of all those, with except for those things that are personal matters that we can't discuss. It's pretty much laid out foundation of how it happened, why it happened, and what we did about it, so you all are aware of, again, as being as transparent as we possibly can.
Try not to say things in speed, but I'll say it to you. Well, and consider this, you've already been through the process of electing a chair and a vice chair. Trust them that, if something come in, you want to wait till the end of the month to put something on your agenda to respond.
Mhm.
So I'm just saying, that you got 2 excellent people here, they see something that can be responded to. I would give them the authority to go ahead and respond instead of bringing it to this meeting and then let's talk about it. That's just me.
No, I think a recap would be important, though.
We're just saying we're gonna.
We're just saying,
Yeah.
after a response, we're gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
I didn't want to.
No, we wouldn't wait to respond until our board meeting.
Okay, good. Okay. Because if you see some of the emails we get from city council. Well, no, we're not gonna do this, I don't care who it is, just send a response back.
Right.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Right.
But you had somebody. It's true fact, wanted us to do something about people blowing their leaves after a certain time. Let's go today, not too early and not too late. Create a law, so they can use the leaf blower.
We got bigger fish to fry.
Well, it's just that, thank you for your comments, unfortunately,
Yeah.
there's nothing we can control. Anyone that
Yeah.
outlaw gas leaf blowers. So, wait.
Okay, and so the other item for the communications committee, we had talked about our desire to have a short elevator pitch sort of phrase that we could use when we're meeting people, especially if we're standing at a table. And so we drafted a couple, and that's where I was hoping we could find a way to share it because, oh,
Copy of the email.
oh, thank you. Well, I can pass it around. Not everybody's gonna be able to see it. I don't know who all printed. I can read them, is what I'll do.
I have this.
Yeah, I sent it via an email
You did.
as well. All right, let me get the right one. This. I'm gonna have to get a new printer because I tried to do it today. All right, so we came up with 2 short statements of purpose. We welcome other suggestions, and I can share a link to the Google Doc that we were working in. And I anticipate that we may have some rounds of revisions, so this is to get us started. The first statement that we made, the purpose of the PCEB is to maintain open lines of communication and help build trust with everyone who lives, works, studies, and plays in our community. So that's the first one, and that's almost lifted from the ordinance, that whole last phrase. Another one is different, but I think it was consistent with the theme. Our goal is to understand community concerns about public safety and help open lines of communication that may literally save lives. That one is a communications person. I don't know if that's a little bit of hyperbole, but I think also maybe not. So I don't know if anybody has thoughts about either of those or directions that you would like the communications committee to think about drafting some others, or where would we go from those 2 thoughts?
I think the first one's straightforward to me. And it seems lifted from everything we've done and built upon before. The second one to me seems good. It just literally save lives strikes me as
It's a little,
it's a reach a little bit to me,
Yeah.
but
I
which
know,
is great. I mean,
yeah.
aspire or want to.
I'm
always
curious
conversation.
with that language at the end of the second one, tell me from a communications perspective, what is our hope? Like what do we hope to achieve with a little bit of emotional language?
You know, that it would be reaching a little bit beyond just the language of the ordinance to be a little more aspirational, and that it would be taken seriously. But there's part of me that is also pulling back from it, that I feel it's too much. So
One thing I like about the idea of it, maybe these not these exact words, is that it would make somebody maybe care and pay attention, and so that I think is important. Sometimes with the work that we're doing or trying to do, we don't know if we get the community's attention and their care. Like, this is something I want to know more about, or potentially invest my energy or thought into. So is that the exact right language? I don't know, but the idea appeals to me in a way.
I think that you probably voiced something that was more subconscious with me. Sloan, do you want to speak to it? Because you were there and maybe you could represent what you and John and I were thinking.
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Katie just said about kind of, whether that exact language is what we want to go with. But I do think there is something to that second one maybe would like grab attention more and spark a conversation more, especially if it's like an elevator pitch. You kind of want the person to like remember it. And the first one just sounds like very formal, but I don't know. I can see positives to both.
I like the second one. If you take out may literally save lives.
And find something.
And
that's
find
a
something
little more-
That's a little less.
Aspiration, but
Yeah,
Mhm.
the first one, I agree, Sloan. It's too formal.
Yeah.
It's too much like the ordinance.
Yeah, and I think we could definitely change up what the second one says, but having that, like, I don't know, if you were especially giving that in an elevator pitch type setting, that might spark a question or talking more versus the first one just would seem a little scripted or something to bring up in.
Well, to me, the strongest two words in there is community concerns about, and then about public safety. That is a very broad but important statement, you know? Because the concerns can be not only about public safety, but about those that deliver it. I mean,
There was a thought that I had, okay, so scratch the saving lives, but I really, it's the idea of that we're improving the safety
mhm,
of everyone. It's our community members, our police officers, you know, really anyone that is in the community. It could be someone that is, I don't know, it's even broader than just what do you speak up and bring to the police, but how do you engage in your community? You know, if you know somebody's teenager is habitually racing down your street, go and talk to their mom and dad. Tell that kid, hey, slow down. So I think it was that bigger picture of what makes us safe, and that communication and the willingness to put yourself out there a little bit and engage more helps that. This could be something that we think about maybe over the break. I will think about it a little bit too and come up with some other things. Would you be opposed to getting an email between now and January? The communications committee is still gonna meet once more. Before January, we've got a meeting scheduled, so we'll come back with some other ideas based on your input,
Okay, so that's what
okay?
Yeah, that sounds very, yeah, I think just the end, somehow retaining what you're hoping, you're aspiring to, but, yeah, just other language alternatives I'll think of.
Yeah.
And we can all think.
That's not,
Nothing against.
yeah,
Just,
no,
I think I just want to see other ways it could be stated.
I do like something aspirational and, something that like sparks conversation. I do think that that's a good thing. And I guess, maybe a overarching idea that I had as I was looking at those words, Lexi, something about creating these understanding community concerns about public safety and opening lines of communication. Like the aspiration is to create something about the Webster Groves community or work to create something. And I guess, you know, I like a word that I would lean into is compassion. That's probably not the right word, but like something like that.
oh, I like that thought though. That word is helpful.
So, okay.
Part of it, what you just said, the opening lines, I think for me. Is more of along the lines of encouraging, because the lines are always open, they're always available
Yes.
to talk to people, right? The police officers. And when I went to the safety day meeting or safety day fair, event that happened a few weeks ago. There were these children, 3 little children, and ethnically they appear to be white. But I talked to the mom who was she had some mixed ethnicity, and the dad was white. So I was talking to mom, I was like, hey, maybe a photo op, me, the cops, and on the motorcycle, which is really cool, and the children. And she was like, you know, a little hesitant. So I thought, oh, well, maybe she doesn't like her children to be photographed, which would make sense. So we dispersed and I'm walking away and she's like, hey, come here. She's like, here's the issue. I don't trust the police. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, a lot of things have been going on. And she's a Webster resident, has lived here, she said, most of her life. And I said, well, that's part of why we're here, to help encourage you to communicate if something occurs that you feel you can share, and you can share with us. We have, you know, at the time, we didn't really have, you know, open the website or anything. So, but look forward to hearing opportunities to communicate to us anything that might happen. And she said she thought it was a good idea. I bring it up because there's still such a distrust, right? And there's still a need for encouragement. to
Mhm.
talk to officers or, reach out to us anyway that we make available to them. So that was my thing. I think we should try to encourage people to, however we can maybe put that in there, some,
Mhm.
in one of the definitions that we choose.
Well, that was the whole idea behind the listening session too. Of having the listening session, so if someone would feel more comfortable doing that anonymously. Get that off their chest to find out why do you distrust? What happened? That brings that level of distrust, because that's real, I mean, that conversation you had with that person is what we're all about.
She said nothing. I didn't ask. So no. News.
News,
I mean, she's never had an interaction, a negative interaction with the police. Let's ask her, have you ever been pulled over and been mistreated? Nope, never, nothing's ever happened. Like, oh. Okay.
Well, at least you came, so.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
She was-
Yeah.
And the kids were interacting with the police, they were talking. She
Which
just
is
didn't want to
the
photograph them.
it's,
All right. Thanks, Centron. That was a good anecdote and helpful to, yeah, keep us focused on one of the big things that we're trying to do. So, okay, so Lexi, I think I heard you say that was the last item on the communications subcommittee. Is that right?
It's the last thing that we had really prepared for this one.
Okay. All right, then it looks like we would be going on to Scott and Kevin in the ordinance compliance subcommittee.
Yeah, I sent an email out this morning that had the documents in it.
Mhm.
And I don't want to, there's no reason to go, I mean, you can read them, you can go through them. But the ordinance itself, there was a mention in the minutes that we were going to reach out to Jen Starkey to fix it. Jen Starkey can't fix it. The city council has to fix it.
Really?
Yeah.
Or changing word,
Yeah,
yes.
the city council has to fix it. So I will provide this document that I sent, okay, that's got the red lines in it, that the city council can then go, and it is formatting issues. But it's a change in the ordinance, so the city council has to do it.
There's no word change.
No word change.
You
Okay,
can, that's my position as liaison, and I can take it to the council. To
yes,
have it done.
yes, so can you?
Right.
Yeah, all it is, if you go to the sections with the letters. There were too many letters in there, and what happened is it got split up,
Yeah.
okay?
Just a formatting.
It's
Yeah.
literally a formatting issue, and instead of being A through F, it's like A through
We said. E or something.
E. I mean, there's a guy,
It's written out.
Oh,
it's all written down in the, on the document, and it's also in the document that was sent. Okay,
and I do see some word deletions or.
those were repeated. The same words were were twice in the same paragraph,
Yeah.
the exact
Somebody
same.
moved it.
So somebody moved it. It's a
Copy paste.
yeah, they copied and
Double paste.
pasted. The same words repeated themselves. It makes absolutely no sense. I don't know who proofed it, but it makes absolutely no sense.
Okay. That I think we take care of without the council, but it's just as long as we're not removing words. or
Right.
adding.
Now, part of it, there's a clarification because the words were changed and I didn't strike them or I just put up in parentheses on the training that I just put out there. We need guidance from city council on that.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
And we've talked about that
Yeah, and
because the language that we recommended is that the training was encouraged versus it shall be done. Okay, so that's, and so in order for that to occur, we need direction from the city council on how that's gonna happen.
I can help you with that. I talked to Dr. Peebles this morning and it was probably aware, but anyhow, it's been approved for the board to participate in the DEI training. Actually, what she wants to kind of focus that it's more DEI education
yes,
and information than it is training. So you all, will be able to participate. You can come in person or you can do it on Zoom, whichever you would like to do. And whatever that's, I think it's January.
Things
9th.
at 9th.
Yeah, I think so. So, we'll get that information out to you and that's something that you can do and participate in.
And the purpose is to, was great for the charter review board.
Mhm.
Yes, I'm gonna call it, I'm not gonna call it crap. Charter review board. To give them, to make sure that their language is in a DEI state. And I think that's the same thing you guys are looking for here, so, for your charter, Hicks, yeah, very good. We've had her before here at City Hall, so you have been approved to do that, so I'll make sure, between the chief and I will make sure you get invitations. You can come in person. They're looking for maybe about an hour or an hour and a half, so it's not like a. What do we do about this? What do we do about this? Just move it, like Chief said, educational. About DEI.
The question too, though, is, yeah, that's strongly encouraged, and I very much want to be, to be involved with it and what have you, but when it says shall, that means or
Or what?
Yeah.
this is a volunteer board. What are you gonna do? Shall or? That's the issue of it.
Now's a good time to do it because, you know, I've sat in all of the.
I'm pretty sure it'll be recorded too, so if for some reason you're not able to make that time.
Yeah.
you can-
Yeah.
At your convenience, you can view it.
I would just say someone who wasn't interested in doing that kind of education, though, probably isn't the best candidate to be on a board of
Sure.
this kind. So
Sure.
a willingness to do that is important. So,
So,
but I'm glad we'll get it. That's
yes,
wonderful.
city's paying for it, so we might as well slide on there and get it.
All right.
But January
But I'll-
9th Mondays are good, so.
And I'm excited about your spreadsheet, Kevin, because
That's
now
good,
we
right?
have a checklist. And we can start.
We do
working
have a
through it.
checklist, so when Scott and I met, I put together a grid and we went through it line by line. And it can be, of course, modified, as much as possible. But I went through the ordinance, literally line by line of the ordinance. And developed more of a grid with a checklist, as you said, and I couldn't use all the words that were in there, but I tried to make it make sense so that this matched what the ordinance said. And then the responsible party. So, and then the frequency, like some of it is pretty I wanted to list every single item. The chairperson to collaborate with the vice chair to set meeting agendas. Well, I mean, that's a responsibility that's listed in the ordinance. It's pretty obvious that it needs to be done, but I wanted to make sure that everything was stated in it. And then there's several of them on the second page, which is the A, B, C, D, E, F, or A, B, C, however many we end up with. And that's what these were, that it's an ongoing kind of situation where suggest methods to enhance relations between the police department and the community. Create and publicize a process for the community to communicate concerns, values, and priorities. We're already working on that. I mean, that's what the communication subcommittee is doing right now. Promoting public awareness of police programs, issues, policies, and training. I think we can probably produce more information on our website that points people in that direction, or, as Sloan said, maybe we can come up with some kind of more graphical things that we can put out there that, would really be more in tune with the youth on that. So anyway, this was kind of my first shot at it. And we'll, for instance, receive training on the role systems. Now we can say it's going to be completed. And then as far as putting together a plan,
There it is.
there it is.
As far as reporting to the city council, we thought this is a nice
Yes.
framework to say, you bring that with you to city, that report.
And I will tell you
Yeah,
that,
and the calendar, and you say, we did check marks 1 through 10, and here's our calendar of events.
Hmm.
we're finishing up our, the boards and commissions generic guidelines. And one of the most prominent is having each commission or board come and make a presentation to the council on what they're doing, where they're going, things of that nature.
I love this. I think this is great. And I'm curious if there's a point in the calendar year that it makes sense to kind of do an evaluation so that in case we are missing something, we have enough time to start addressing. I doubt that we would be missing something, but do you know what I'm saying?
I think that seems a good idea.
Well, and that's where the due date, start date and all that, where we can fill in, we were talking about it. That's something for us here as the board to discuss. What are those due dates?
Well, like I brought up the fact that I thought the due date should be maybe the beginning or toward the end of the current fiscal year. But then Emerson brought up the fact that they're doing strategic planning right now. And that the best time to do it would probably be February or March, which is earlier than what I had anticipated.
Right.
So, so on that, develop and maintain an annual plan of action. I'd say the due date on the annual plan of action should be like February 29th or February 28th.
Especially you'll be asking for funds or some kind of special.
Not 29 until 24.
Or special considerations during budget time, that's the best time to do it.
Well, and we would have a couple meetings between that time.
Or even say March 1st.
Yeah.
And that way we'd have a January meeting and a February meeting.
Right, right.
So.
Yep.
But this is the kind of the plan of actions.
Yeah.
Is already laid out here. It's just what do we want to add? Like, for instance, your talking point. That would be added to this, but it's probably going to be. It's going to fit into one of these, but we need, to me, the biggest thing we need to jump on is the citizen only listening section. We
Yeah.
need to get that on the schedule.
I was wondering if we could talk about that. We could maybe talk about it a little now, but maybe at the next meeting. I'm gonna try and represent what John was telling us, Sloan. At Webster U, they did a whole series of listening sessions, and they'd have just 2 or 3 people, and they go around to different groups that already met. It could be a student organization, it might have been a group of a department, faculty. So they did a series of listening sessions at Webster U, and I wonder if it could be less overwhelming if we scheduled a few such things. And I was thinking of back when people were campaigning for roles on the council and for mayor. A number of people had sessions that they do at like Redco and others. And would something like that be just more accessible and feel like it's a lower lift, both for us to do it and also for somebody in the community to say, oh yeah, I could stop by that. And we could choose maybe a couple different days and times that then it would be, I don't know, something about a town hall style listening session makes me apprehensive. I've never done one of those. I've been in them. They were always cordial, but they were here in Webster Groves, but they might not be. And so I don't know,
I wouldn't be afraid of it.
you wouldn't be afraid of it?
But I would just we're here to talk about these 3 items.
Mhm.
Just, whatever it might be, breaking in cars or automobile security. And just let them speak on that. And then next time, he said, we'll write that, they bring up something else. We'll put this on the parking lot for our next communication.
I would say maybe what you're saying, there's a lot of merit to it, so maybe we have like one big, the initial one is like kind of the town hall setting, and then maybe the subsequent ones are maybe more low threat. Like in break or whatever, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it says at least one.
Yeah.
You know, I
We-
do in favor of what Lexi is suggesting. I think a lot of times when we do like a big town hall, something, and I haven't done, I mean, I think because of COVID, I haven't been to something like that in a while, but you kind of get your usual players in the Webster Groves community. Like we know some voices, and I think this, you know, it's similar with probably city council, like there are certain, you know, grouping of people that are just involved, and that's great. But if we want to hear from more than those people, I think making things less intimidating or more going out to people rather than having them come to us is I think it could be effective.
And
Both options are good.
kind of going off of that, I think that maybe a big town hall could be like a good step. But I know at least from like if we wanted to get like high school students involved, I feel like it could be kind of intimidating to like ask a question at a big like town hall type of thing. So maybe in addition, if we had some type of like separate student thing where it could be like an information session and like asking questions, that could get like younger people involved in a less intimidating way. So
What
that's
if we somebody attended one of your student events at the high school? I mean.
yeah, I think
one of
that
your, like I don't know what clubs you have, but I mean, when I was in school, they had Spanish club and they had all these clubs in school.
yeah, I think that could definitely be cool. And another thing just our communications committee was talking about is maybe in some like of the Chelsea Center, like either Chelsea Center classes or like government and social studies classes, those could also be like a good chance to have speakers that could be kind of applicable to the curriculum while also being like a real example of stuff going on in our community. So
Maybe catch the athletes at practices before a practice or something.
Katie and Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the initial discussion about the listening sessions was to go out into the community to groups or whatever and have 2 or 3 people from the board go to those and listen to the concerns and then bring them back to the board. And then I would be present or the police officers would be present so they would feel comfortable talking to somebody and not feeling like they were being influenced or as sometimes that someone who doesn't trust the police isn't going to open up. So anyhow, if I remember correctly, and again, you all can change it. The original thought was to do that, to go out to smaller groups, solicit the information with 2 or 3 people from the board, and then bring it back, the concerns and what was being, bring it back here. Let me know, and so that we could discuss what the concerns were and try and either, address a problem or have an understanding for what the community's concerns are that we can try and work around or work through.
Sloan, do they still have I know when I was on Board of Education, we met with a selected group of representatives from each grade level. The Board of Education had a meeting with them probably 2 to 3 times a year. Is that group still going on?
I'm not sure if this is what you're talking about, but Dr. Irvin has like I'm on it where it's like 7 or something kids from each grade, and it's like to help him like make policy decisions to get our input, but I don't know if that would be.
Well, the Board of Education actually attends this. I mean.
Oh, then no, I don't think I know what you're talking about. No.
They
It might
did.
still exist. I just don't know.
Yeah. We did have something like that where we went to the students and they were selections from the different grade levels.
Like a student council?
You didn't say like a student council, but it wasn't a student council, it was just
Okay.
a group of kids and they got a chance to speak their mind and we just made sure we took it back, acted on it, got back with them. And we did.
Well,
2,
that-
3
The Webster University. And I'll call it presentation for lack of a better word, but that turned into a listening session.
Yeah, I felt it did.
Okay, but like, for instance, the meeting we attended at the North Webster Neighborhood Coalition, okay. We had a presentation. I'm not sure it's necessary if we go to these groups to have a presentation.
Right.
We just need to listen
Mhm.
and have a few, I like your idea, have a few topics,
Mhm.
okay? But
Yeah.
one of the topics I think should be any do you have any concerns?
Mhm.
Because, I mean, what, you know, what Centron ran into was this person had a concern, but it wasn't a specific concern about the Webster Groves Police Department. It's the bombardment that that person was getting over the news media. And it would be interesting to see, well, how does that affect your communication with, and the police would have to understand that. It would be important for the police to understand that too. That there are people that feel that way, not because of anything that was done locally, but globally.
You know, to a certain extent, we all are representing different aspects of the community. Maybe we could go back to the groups that we are supposedly representing in particular. Like I know I'm supposed to be representing business community. I could go to a Rotary or something like that.
Yeah, I talked with the guy from the Lions Club
Yeah.
and they were really, he was very interested in having us come in and that, you know, do. But I don't wanna, I don't think we need to do a presentation like. we
Right,
did.
no, I totally
Yeah.
agree. That was, well, it was an experiment and we learned from it. And people did end up talking a lot about the things that concerned them. What was really hot was
Fireworks.
fireworks. And what do you know? It ended up being an issue because fireworks ended up damaging their
Brand new.
brand new courts.
Courts.
People
after-
damage the courts.
Right, people, yes, absolutely. But they were worried about the danger of fireworks.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
So we go on to the 3 topics and our elevator pitch.
Okay. Kevin and Scott, is there anything else that you want or need us to know or go over about this? Seems like a lot of work that you did, so thank you.
well, the ordinance cleanup is not that big a deal because we know what it's supposed to say.
Yeah.
You know, when you read between the lines and, you know, I didn't realize it really until I read it but Lexi said something at the last meeting. I went, oh, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Duh. So, and that's when I, you know, just combined everything to say, okay, I compared this one, which was the final version of the recommended with what actually got passed. And that's all that happened. You know, for most of it. And then the schedule of responsibilities grid, it was just like, just line by line. This is what we need to be doing. So,
And we'll just keep evolving that
right,
as, right, okay,
Get the master-
all right, thank you.
Mhm.
Do we have more comment on that? No, okay. The education subcommittee does not have anything to report. So then I think we started to get a little bit of public safety day participation. Any other feedback that is valuable to our group?
I went to the smaller of the 2 events. I went to the new firehouse, which if you haven't been there yet, oh my gosh. It is stunning. Compared to what they had to work with there, it's awesome. And they're really appreciative of the community, you know, for giving them that kind of facility. But it is, and I did talk to a brand, he had been on the police force for like 3 weeks. I can't remember who it was.
We've had some people.
I know.
So
Could be any number of people.
Yeah, but so and then the police dog came up, was there from Pacific, the Pacific Police Department. And we had a very interesting conversation about the marijuana law and the fact that they're gonna have to probably get rid of existing police dogs and retrain new ones because of the fact that they, you know, if a dog smells drugs, it could be marijuana, it could be heroin, it could be fentanyl, it could be But they don't say, that's marijuana, you know, they just recognize that it's a smell of a drug, so they have to untrain them. Because then if they smell it and it's just marijuana, then they could throw out that search as being illegal, an illegal search. So the passage of the marijuana law really caused a lot of issues, so that'll be interesting to
It'll
see.
be interesting.
I went to the one that was here.
Yeah,
And I happened to be here when the fire department was doing the burning house demonstration with and how it's accelerated by the different chemicals that are in the couch and how the fire doors are really. Needless to say, everyone was really focused on that. So I was only really talking to people that were presenting at the tables. So I had a nice talk with the folks that were handing out gun locks and, you know, a lot of information about gun safety, keeping children safe. And so that's really all I have to report about it.
Well, I did get a picture, so I'll send it out.
Yeah, you
It's a
did,
place to
yeah,
put
yeah.
it when we do our websites.
Oh, okay.
Was that here?
It was, yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to you all who participated and were liaisons for our group. And then the last thing is that we talked about last time was getting name tags. So that when we go out into the community, we do these things, you know, that we can have something that says, you know, our name and Police Community Engagement Board. And Police Chief Curtis sent me an estimate, and it is $30 per name tag. And so it is a big budget item. And I think they take 2 to 3 weeks to come in. And so I guess that we can either think about it and talk about it and decide in January. We could think about it and talk about it and decide now. It is, I mean, because with 9 of us, right?
That's a lot of money per name.
It is. They're nice name tags.
Except the ones that I have this.
I
Yeah.
can see it for a council member, but
Yeah, so
I'm gonna
maybe
check where
that's
my
not,
department does name tags. Like the ones that they can generate, like maybe that they aren't, maybe yours are almost like.
I'll send you
engraved
all.
in. I've seen them what they're printed on a plastic tag, like you would get at a conference.
I
Would
think that-
something like that be sufficient?
Jennifer, I can do this place right now.
or lanyards potentially.
I don't want to speak, but Geneva, I can check.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Lexi. You can just print them out on a regular
Yeah.
printer.
And put them in like a plastic.
Plastic over there.
Yeah,
Like a lanyard, but
So maybe, right, so maybe we want to take on you know, we can try it because that would be very cheap. I'm thinking that would be $5. You know, we could take that on from our budget, have them done. And then if that's not adequate, we could do something different going forward.
I don't know if this would be a misuse of my work department's resources, but we do events and we put out hundreds of those things. So let me just ask them, you know,
Okay.
if there's extra supplies and people throw those lanyards away. Let me just see what I can scrounge for us and.
My wife did something for the Webster Rock Hill Ministries, and that's what she did, events in the science.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So she already had the cards and stuff,
We've got everything.
and she just
Yeah.
printed them out. All
I
she
think
was-
it-
The
I
names.
think $30 per, if we had if there was no turnover ever, and we would have the same name tags forever, that might be a good investment, but it just seems like, you know, it's an ongoing investment.
Especially if you're losing one.
Okay, so we'll revisit that, and Lexi's gonna see what she can scrounge.
I'm
up in
gonna
her
see what I
work.
can scrounge up and
Don't get it.
maybe I'll send you a picture. I'll email a picture. How's this?
Okay, does anybody else have, does anybody else have anything for our agenda tonight?
I only have one thing that I want to mention to the group. The city council, we're still moving forward with our mission, vision, and values. And if you would go out to the website under the city council, it says strategic planning. There is a survey out there. Would like for you to take, and it features our mission, a new mission. Or not new, but our recommended mission, recommended vision, and our recommended values. Values is one thing that the city actually have never really had. So we're asking the community to go out and it's just to give their opinion, it's just a simple thing. Do you agree or disagree with it? You know, and then you have the opportunity to, I think in one of them, we asked, is in the area of excellence in service, diversity and inclusion, creativity, sustainability, leadership. And then there's a list, we're asking you to rank order these values. Which one you think is most important, and you'll, it's from 1 through 6. So you'll be able to go through that. I think that survey might be out there until maybe the middle of December. But ask all that you know, Sloan, anybody that you know, just go out to the website and complete that survey for us. But we're moving right along with our strategic planning, so
Is that anonymous?
what?
This survey.
I think it is. Yeah, the only thing it asks you if you are city resident, if you're a member of a board or commission, if you're a business owner and other, then we ask you to specify. I don't know what other would be, but we do have outsiders participating in our survey that don't live in Webster Groves. So, yeah, so it's really quick, clean, and we appreciate your feedback on that. Just
Thanks, Emerson.
Spread the word to everybody. We like get as many responses as we can.
Thanks, Emerson. Okay, so for the beginning of 2023, I looked at the calendar. It looks like January 24th would be our next meeting. And it looks like February 27th would be the one after that. So just for your planning purposes.
28.
28th,
Yeah.
thank you. All right, so no meeting in December. I hope everybody has a really happy holiday season. I guess I need a motion to adjourn this meeting. Paul, thank you. Do you have a second?
I second.
Okay, so our meeting for tonight is adjourned. Thank you to everybody. Thanks for all your time, energy, and effort. And thanks to Lexi and Centron for taking on the leadership.
Yay.
Happy holidays and happy new year, everybody.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Sloan.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks,
Actually feel kind of sad, but I would